girlies, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a quick video going into all the details about my Graff engagement ring. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for an update about how I've been liking it and why I ultimately decided on the ring that I did. So let's get started, but before we do, hi, I'm Somidoshoppers. I make videos once a week on luxury and fashion. I love taking you guys around SF with me, sharing my life, and sharing all the purchases I make along the way. So if you love all things luxury, I would love it if you subscribe so you do not miss out. Okay, so let me show you guys the ring. If you've been following me on social media or YouTube, you know exactly what it looks like, or if you watch my engagement vlog video on YouTube, you know exactly what it looks like. So this is not like an unboxing or anything, but I just want to show you the packaging and talk a little bit about Graff, which is a pretty, I would say, kind of smaller niche boutique jewelry brand. It was started by Lawrence Graff back in 1960 and it's still family owned, and so Lawrence Graff is still alive and I believe his grandchildren now are running it, and it's still one of the brands that's still family owned. So for example, Harry Winston was founded by Harry Winston even earlier than Graff was, but over a family dispute it was eventually purchased by LVMH, and so they're under that brand now. So I do really like that kind of nicheness, that closeness that the Graff brand provides. So it comes in this little packaging here. So this is just the ring box, and then it opens up like any standard ring box here. So here is the actual ring box. The leather is so supple and soft, it is so luxurious to touch. I don't know exactly what leather they use, but it's absolutely lovely. And the box is very, very simple. So this little clasp here is actually the Graff logo. It's like a little fan kind of. And then they have just the gold trim, super simple, super low key, not really any bells and whistles. And it opens up like a very standard ring box. And here you can see that it says Graff. And again, they just have this lovely gold trim here that really draws attention to the ring. And it's just very simple and elegant. I think that Graff is just kind of like an if you know, you know kind of brand. So Graff doesn't really do any marketing, and they're not really super out there, I would say, in terms of their branding. And so for me, I loved this just super simple packaging. But let's stop talking about the packaging and let's talk about the ring. So here is my ring up close. This is probably the most popular style at Graff and probably their most icon. It's actually called the Icon. So it features a center diamond here and a halo setting with a pave band. So this ring also has a lot of hidden features that I just really, really loved about it. So if you look closely on the sides, even along this kind of cathedral setting, I'm not really sure if it's called cathedral, sorry. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but you can see where the diamond is set. There's actually these tiny, tiny little diamonds all around the basket of the center diamond. And so even from a side setting, it sparkles so brilliantly. And I just am in absolute love with this ring. It also features not a completely full pave band, but pretty much nearly pave. So I got this in a size 4. I resized the ring to a size 4. And you can see actually at the very edge of it, there is a little bit of white gold just peeking out. This is white gold, not platinum. And actually my finger size is actually smaller than a size 4. So when I asked if I could resize it even further down to a 4, because I originally first sized it to a 4, they said that if you do end up deciding to resize it, it's not going to turn it into a full pave band. They're actually going to keep that little white gold that peeks out, and they're actually going to take out diamonds. And if for any reason you gain weight or something and you need to resize it bigger, they actually don't put those diamonds back in. So I opted to keep it at the size 4, where it's pretty much just a full pave, which I absolutely love. And then I am going to be putting on bumpers, I think, which are the little teeth that you can put on the interior of the ring, or I might get the plastic coil that some people use just to make it a little bit more of a secure fit, because I don't want to take out any diamonds, because inevitably I'm sure later down the line, I most likely will want to resize it up rather than resize it down. So let me put her on so you can just see what she looks like. So here she is, absolutely stunning. I am just so in love with this ring, and I'm going to be talking about all the reasons why I ended up choosing this in just a second, but I just wanted to give you a good close-up view, and this is what it looks like from the back. So you can see that it's pretty much a full pave, but you do see that tiny little strip of white gold, and it is really comfortable on the hand. I know that some people say that a pave band might kind of feel scratchy or it's a little uncomfortable. I haven't had any issues like that. I don't really feel I noticed my ring at all, and I think that the size that I ended up choosing is just really proportional to my fingers. Not too big, not too small, but definitely makes a statement. So when you do end up purchasing a sizable enough diamond from Graff, you do get this large booklet. It has things for insurance purposes, so it has the appraisal value for your piece of jewelry. In my case, it's a ring. It also has the GIA report and everything else, your receipt, all that good stuff. So I'll just talk a little bit about the specifics of the ring. So the official name of the ring is the White Round Diamond Icon Ring with white pave diamond surrounds the band set in 18 karat white gold. So I think it's kind of like a wild-ish name just because they want to be really detailed, and especially for these more kind of like old school long-standing jewelry brands. I'm not completely sure how it works at every other boutique because I didn't purchase something from every boutique I went to, but they do it in a very kind of traditional fashion where they write everything down in literally pencil. They're calculating your total on a calculator. They're writing it down on a slip of paper and like sliding to you before you end up paying. So I think that this is just very much in line with how it's done. This is a white round diamond. It has 58 white round diamonds in fine white surrounding it. And the total weight of my center stone was 1.2 carats, and then my surrounding white diamonds was 1.1 carats. So I guess in total there is about 2.3 carats worth of diamonds on this ring. In terms of the center diamond specs, which are really the only specs that matter, the other tiny little diamonds don't really get graded in the same way. It is F color and VS1. I do want to quickly note some of the things that they gifted me when I did purchase the ring. I would say that they're not as big about gifts as you might have seen from Harry Winston or other brands, but they did give me a couple things just to help with the longevity of my ring. So first off, they did give me a travel pouch. It's super simple and it's quite cute because it's actually a 2-ring travel pouch. So it just has a button closure and it has 2 little compartments, probably one for my ring, one for Matthew's ring, and it's super nifty and convenient, and it's made out of the same leather as their boxes are. And then additionally, they did also give me this beautiful little wedding planner booklet. It's so adorable. It's this tiny little leather white booklet, and inside it has these beautiful depictions of some classic pieces from Graff, and then these tabs you can see have the labeling of everything you might need, so like dresses, guests, catering, music, photos, and flowers. And in each tab you have a little bit of space to write things down, and then at the beginning of each tab, like I said, has just some of their beautiful iconic pictures. And so the last thing they did give me was a jewelry cleaning kit, and this is super nifty because obviously this can be used to clean any of my jewelry pieces. But let's open her up. So super simple. This is very similar to any kind of jewelry cleaning kit you might be able to buy off Amazon, but it comes with a liquid formula that does have like a little tray inside of it. It comes with a little brush to kind of get in all those crevices, which is particularly important for a pave wedding band because there's so many little crevices in between the pave diamonds. And then lastly, they did come with a cute little jewelry polishing cloth so that you can finish off with a nice polish. So now you guys know exactly which ring I chose and the general specs of it. And now I want to talk a little bit about my thinking process of why I ended up going with Graff and this design in particular. And then I also want to do some follow-up as to a little situation that happened after I actually purchased the ring. So if you haven't watched my engagement ring shopping vlog, I would highly recommend that. You can see all the different styles I chose, and I also did talk about my general feelings right after I did end up going ring shopping. But after that kind of general initial appointments, I went back several times to Graff to really try to decide on what I actually wanted to get. Before deciding on Graff concretely, I did end up going to Tiffany and Harry Winston as well. So the 3 major brands that I was kind of considering were Tiffany, Harry Winston, and Graff. And I was really heavily considering lab grown as well because I think that in this day and age, like lab grown is the way to go, honestly. There's really no difference between a lab grown and natural diamond, but I will touch on the fact of why I ended up going natural in the end. So generally, just to do a TLDR, because again, please go watch my engagement vlog video, but the general feelings that I had after going to Tiffany and Harry Winston were for Tiffany, the general sentiment that I had was that it was pretty expensive for what you were getting. Of course, I know that the knife edge 6-prong solitaire Tiffany is just so popular. Everybody loves that. And it's honestly a style that you could never go wrong with. Literally every single one of my other friends has gotten a solitaire diamond for their engagement ring, and it's popular for a reason. You'll never regret it. Again, it's just a very, very elegant and simple design, and that's why so many people love it. For me personally, I don't know if it's because a lot of my friends got engaged before me or I just saw so many solitaires, but personally, I actually really did not want a solitaire. Like, it was never on my list to get a solitaire, really. And if you want a solitaire, I think lab grown is for sure the way to go because it's a solitaire. There's pretty much only one way to make the ring. Of course, you can add a couple things like hidden halos, different baskets, and all that stuff, but generally it's a simple design that can be done at almost any jewelry house. It's been done so many times, and so you know that the quality and the design is going to be exactly what you want it to be. So in my personal opinion, there is no reason to go buy solitaire diamond at a luxury boutique. But because I did not want a solitaire diamond, I was looking at a little bit more of an intricate design. So at every single boutique that I went to, I was not focusing on the solitaires really. I was focusing on the other designs that they had to offer, mainly halos or 3 stone settings. So like bullet stones or pear settings that have like 3 center stones. And so as I was looking for Tiffany, again, for some reason, I don't know if it was just that day or the sales associate or whatever, I was just so unimpressed. I think the lighting in the SF boutique is just bad. All the diamonds looked white. They were not sparkling. Like, I don't know. I just didn't have like that great of an experience at the Tiffany. So I immediately checked it off my list. Those prices were still expensive. And I was like, why would I get this for the experience that I had? And then I went to Harry Winston. Harry Winston, I actually had I would say a bad experience at Harry Winston. And I actually recently went to Harry Winston literally yesterday and had another very mediocre experience. So I just don't really like Harry Winston, I think. I originally, before I even met Matthew and before I really even developed my own taste for engagement rings, I really, really wanted a specific Harry Winston ring. It's a center diamond flanked by baguette stones or pear stones, and it's a 3 diamond setting, and I thought it was so beautiful. But I went into Harry Winston. Number one, the service was bad. Again, it's just specific to that person, not reminiscent of everybody's experience. And then secondly, those prices were just like, why? Like, why would I pay this amount of money for this ring when you could get it cheaper at a private jeweler or even Graff? And so after I had that relatively bad experience at Harry Winston, I again kind of wrote off Harry Winston diamonds. I was like, yes, they're pretty. They are gorgeous. They sparkle like no other in that store. But for that price, I just really did not think that they were worth it. And when I went to Graff, and Graff was actually my very first appointment that I had. I went to Graff and then I went to Tiffany and then I went to Harry Winston. Graff was so, so lovely. Like, my sales associate, I love her to death. So kind, and she spent so much time going into every single thing with me. She brought out diamonds that obviously I don't think that she expected me to buy, but they were just like, oh my gosh, you're here, try these on for fun. These might not be in the boutique for long, so I would love it if you tried it and modeled it. And even after, you know, getting my ring, I was invited to private events, and so I just had the most lovely time at Graff. Like, I've never felt pressured. She spent a really long time with me, just really getting down the perfect specs for my diamond because I was going back and forth so much, so patient. And so ultimately, in the end, I really honestly feel like not only was the style of the icon so lovely, but also because of the wonderful service that I received, I just really wanted to make kind of like Graff my home jewelry boutique. And I wanted to be able to go in and have a pleasant experience when I get my ring cleaned or if I wanted to pick up bridal jewelry. And it just felt really right to me. And so I had decided on going with Graff, but then I had to have several follow-up appointments to actually get down the perfect ring for me. And so actually, I was pretty set on getting an oval diamond for quite some time. If you watched my vlogs or if you watched any of my shorts, you would have seen that I did try on so many different types of oval rings. I tried on like the oval icon, I tried it in like their flame setting, I tried it in their promise setting. I was like, oh my gosh, I love oval. And I thought that again, for some reason, I just wanted something different. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but for me, I definitely wanted something just a little bit more unique, something a little bit less seen. And so I thought that oval was like a little bit more trendy than round, and that's the way that I wanted to go. Additionally, my fingers are quite long, or like my hand is pretty slender, and so I felt like the oval shape would have even made it look even more proportional and kind of elongate my fingers even more. So I thought that the shape would have suited me very well. And so I had one full appointment at Graff, even just looking at the oval diamond that they had to offer, and my SA even flew in a couple of rings for me to try. And so at the end of that appointment, I was like, love oval. I even decided on the carat that I think I wanted. I even decided on the ratio of oval that I wanted, because unlike a round, which you don't have to really think about, ovals actually have ratios between the width of the diamond and the height of the diamond. So depending on if you want a little bit of a fatter oval or a little bit more of a narrow oval, you have to decide that kind of range of ratio between width and height that you want. And so I was like, okay, I'm pretty set. Like, I think I want to fly in a couple more rings to try. And I was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go on my merry way and get an oval diamond. My turning point though, however, was when I was looking at a couple of lab-grown boutiques. So in San Francisco, there's 2 major ones that my friends have actually gotten their rings from. So number one is a brand called Frank Darling. They specialize in custom-made lab-grown diamonds. And then also there is another brand that 2 of my friends actually got their engagement rings from, which is Ada Diamonds, ADA Diamonds. And so my really close friend had gotten her ring from Frank Darling, so I set up an appointment there to go try on some rings. And so the kind of way that it works there typically is they bring bring out a lot of loose diamonds, and then they have like this special ring where you can kind of like pry it open, put the diamond in, and then reset it. So it's really simple to change in and out different carat sizes, different shapes, and you can look at it on your finger. And so I was going through the appointment. I was not like highly impressed, I would say, with the process, but they were perfectly friendly and I had a really good time trying on a lot of different diamonds. But definitely the turning point for me between choosing between an oval and a round, because I was pretty set on oval, like I said, was I tried on the loose oval, a loose 2-carat oval versus a loose 2-carat round. And the sparkle, I'll put some videos if I can up on the screen. The sparkle of a round is like no other. A round diamond, because geometrically it is symmetrical, it's always going to have the best light refraction. And so it's always going to create more of like a beautiful diamond sparkle all throughout the diamond, no matter what angle you look at it. But a round, it became perfectly clear when I was looking at some of the larger carat sizes, because it's getting a little bit more like long, kind of like in an oval shape. The center of a oval diamond will look a little bit like white almost, and just like that sparkle dazzle kind of reflects a lot more around the edges of the oval, I would say, and this is based on my personal observation. I hope you can see it on the videos, but the round sparkle was just so much more rainbow, so much more intense than the oval, where it felt just a little bit flat on the middle part of the oval. And so after I saw that, and I was looking at all these loose stones, so it's just becoming a little bit more clear, rather than trying to look at it in like an icon setting where it's just like so many, you know, diamonds bedazzling me. It became a lot more clear when I was looking at the solitary diamonds, which I hadn't really focused on previously. So after that appointment with Frank Darling, I was like, okay, I'm so sorry to my Graff essay, but let's scratch literally everything that we have discussed. I want to come back in and I want to look at only the round diamonds. So again, we had another entire appointment just looking at the round diamonds they had, looking at different carats, looking at different settings. And then again, at the end of that appointment, I was pretty sure on the size of round that I wanted. And again, these diamonds are incredibly expensive. These rings are incredibly expensive. So I also had to make some decisions based on what I wanted to compromise in terms of staying within the price budget that Matthew and I had set. So obviously for a diamond, round is a little bit easier. I want it to be round. I want it to be an excellent cut. And then the other things that needed to be taken into consideration was the carat, the color, and the clarity. So luckily for me, my fingers are relatively slender, and so I personally didn't need like a large center stone, in my opinion, especially with the halo setting. It was going to look large on my fingers regardless of like really the center stone that I was choosing. So I was very lucky in the fact that I could choose a relatively smaller center stone and still get the look that I wanted to achieve with this ring. So then the other two things that I had to play with were the color and the clarity of the diamond. Personally, for me, I value color over clarity. So I chose to go with a more colorless diamond and sacrifice one step down in clarity. Both are still important to me though, so I still wanted a colorless diamond. I still wanted near flawless, but I played a little bit in that kind of like upper range so that I could choose a little bit more of a colorless diamond and sacrifice a little bit in clarity. And so at Graff, the way that it kind of works is that if you've ultimately decided your specs, your essay can go and look up what's kind of already in the database. So what rings have already been made. They're obviously circulated between all the boutiques in the world, but they're in one central database to look at. So she was looking for generally if there was a ring that was close enough to my specifications that she could fly in for me so I could try it. If that wasn't possible, or if there was nothing that was close to my specifications, what they can actually do is just build your ring from scratch. So they will source a diamond, and Graff has their own mine. So they would source a diamond from their own start to finish process and then make that ring for you in the desired specifications. And so Graff is really nice because there are certain amounts of customization that you can do. And ultimately, if you want to buy even like nicer pieces, you can do a lot more customization in that realm. So luckily for me, there was a diamond in the system that was pretty close to my specifications. I wanted around a 1.2 carat diamond, and then obviously the color and clarity were also fulfilled. And so she flew that ring in. It took about a week or two, I think, and then I made another appointment to go look at it. And so when I went in, it was this ring. It was obviously not sized correctly, so it was kind of like twirling and whirling around my finger, but it was so beautiful, and it was definitely like everything that I had dreamed of and more. But while I really wanted to pull the trigger, in the back of my mind, it's just like that kind of like yapping voice in my head that's just like, is this really a financially good purchase for you? Because again, nobody needs a brand name design because nobody's going around and asking, oh, where's your ring from? Blah, 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 blah. And so I actually had asked Frank Darling if they could somewhat replicate the icon design, where it's just like a halo, but the halo is very unique to Graff, I would say. Like, I've never seen a halo, and my friends have told me this many, many times. They've never seen a halo as pretty as the icon, because a lot of halos generally have a bad rep, I would say, where people think it's a little bit tacky, or they think the micro pave around the center diamond looks like tinfoil, and it's like people think it's outdated. But Graff, what they do so well is like how they set the center diamond in comparison to the halo setting, and then also the size of the halo diamonds are very proportional to the center diamond, which makes it just look like one huge glitter bomb over the fact that there's actually a halo on that ring. And so because I had this like dream design in mind, I did not really trust another brand to make something as spectacular and beautiful as the Graff icon. And I know that they could come very close or something, but this is my engagement ring, and it's going to be a ring that I'm going to be wearing essentially my entire life. And I never wanted to have that like feeling or thought in the back of the head being like, oh, I just wish that I had bought the Graff one instead, because the Graff one is better, or the Graff one is the original. And because there's so many intricate details on this ring itself, like the micro pave diamonds along the basket and all this other things, I just didn't want to risk having someone just like 3D CAD something and getting like a weird 3D print back and just trying to like visualize in my head what it's going to look like and have already paid for it before I get the final product. Like, I wanted to fully inspect the final product before actually buying it. And so I was very hesitant when I saw the beautiful ring that my SA had brought in for me because of all these kind of thoughts in my head. But ultimately, in the end, Matthew said, I think that this ring looks gorgeous on you. I want to get this for you. And so ultimately, he helped me make the decision, and we ended up purchasing this ring. So after we purchased the ring, I actually immediately sent it off for resizing. So we purchased the ring either at the end of March or the beginning of April. And so the resizing was only supposed to take 2 weeks. And because Matthew and I were planning to do our proposal in Asia, we knew we had ample amounts of time, but we still wanted to do it as fast as possible. And then Matthew wanted to put away the ring, so I would stop talking about it and stop looking at it and fawning over it and everything. So we sent it off for resizing. It did take about 2 weeks. And then my SA called me to let me know that the ring had come, that I picked this up. And this is when I noticed that it was almost a full micro pave. It was beautiful, stunning, lovely. And so I took it home that day. And I think, generally I wasn't looking super, super closely at the ring. And here's kind of where, not really drama, but like a slight situation had happened, is I took the ring home, and in the store, I was obviously looking at it from afar like this. I was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful, twisting it around like this generally, but I wasn't looking too closely at the ring. And when I finally took it home, I started to look a little bit more closely because I was in awe about all these intricate details that were on the ring. And I noticed that the center diamond of my stone was actually set crookedly. And I'll pop a picture up on the screen of like these lines and these like geometrical calculations I was trying to do to make sure that I wasn't crazy, because I didn't want to bring up an issue that was not actually an issue. But no matter the way that you turned the ring, like if you flip the ring one way to the other, the crookedness matched the flip, so it would flip as well. So I knew that the diamond was actually crooked. It was tilted slightly to one direction, and I was just honestly shocked because this was an incredibly expensive purchase. And to have a flaw, like to have this ring pass quality checker, for someone to be like, oh yeah, this is okay, actually shocked me, because this is Graff. This is a brand that is renowned for their quality, the beauty of their jewels. And so immediately I text my SA the picture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is slightly crooked. Can I come in so you can take another look? And at first she was like, oh, I'm not sure. But she was like, yes, for sure. Take it in. Let's check it out. And so I went back to the boutique like 2 days later. And luckily there was like a kind of more expert appraiser, I think, that happened to be at the boutique that day. And so I first showed the ring to my SA, and she was actually like, I'm not really sure if I see anything. Like, she was pulling out the little magnifying glass. She's like, this looks perfectly normal to me. And I was like, no, this is not normal. This is honestly, to me, this is unacceptable for the amount of money that you pay for it. And so then she calls the more expert or senior woman to take a look. They bring the ring upstairs, and they're gone for quite some time. And then when they come back, the woman is like, yes, we definitely need to send this ring back. It either needs to be repaired, or we're going to have to salvage the center diamond and remake the ring from scratch. And I was like, oh my gosh, because at this point, the engagement is coming a little bit closer. So I said, okay, I definitely want to fix this problem. What is going to be the timeline for receiving my ring? And so she says, it's probably going to take at least 2 months. but I will definitely let the team know in London, if they have to send it all the way to London, that you need it back by the end of May. And I was like, wow, that is cutting it so close. But obviously, I want the ring to be perfect, and so I agree to send the ring. I think it first goes to New York to check if they can repair it. If not, then they send it to London to do like a full remake. And so I send it off, and again, this kind of draws back to their whole like paper system almost, where I don't really know how the database looks like, but they seem to not have a super digitalized system of everything, because during the entirety of the 2 months, I got like no updates about what was happening to my ring, if it needed a repair, if it needed to be completely remade, if it was going to get here on time. And I was texting my SA like once a week at least after maybe like the first 3 weeks had passed. I was like, please, are there any updates, you know? And she was just like, we've asked, but there's been no response. Like, I'm not really sure, but they know that it needs to be back by the end of the May. Like, I wouldn't worry about it. And I was, you know, at the end of May, I was starting to freak out. But luckily, true to their word, they did end up getting the ring back by the end of May, and it was fixed. It was absolutely perfect. I do not think that they did a full remake of the ring, but I asked my SA, I was like, do you actually know what they did to this ring? Like, are there notes? Did they tell you? She's like, no, I don't know. They didn't say anything. I was like, okay. So I honestly don't know if they did a repair or a full remake, but I think they just did a repair because honestly it looks the exact same as it came back, and it wasn't like a huge problem either. It was just like a slight tilt. I feel like they just need to lift one of the prongs and reset it again. And again, like the serial number and everything that they inscribe on the rings, all the same. So I have no reason to believe that they remade it or anything. And honestly, I'm just happy that it came back fixed and there was no issue. It is perfectly straight now. And so that is generally the story time of how I ended up choosing my ring from Graff. I do want to talk a little bit more about why I really loved the halo so much. So number one, I think, is that you get a larger look for a cheaper price, because the larger size of carat for your center diamond that you go, the price is going to increase exponentially. It's not like a 1 carat versus a 2 carat is double the price. It goes up way higher. So if you do want a diamond or kind of like a center stone that covers like a majority of your hand, but you don't want to pay that egregious price, definitely halos are the way to go, especially the ones from Graff, where honestly, it's pretty hard to tell a halo is exactly what it is because it is just a glitter bomb. Another reason that I really love this ring in particular is that the diamond is very low set. So I don't know if you can see very well, but I'm sure as many of you know, or if any of you have solitaires, the solitaire is very high set, which is great because you can put your wedding band flush against it. And of course, the triangular shape of a diamond is kind of just how that needs to be set. But I didn't want anything that was too high profile that could catch on my clothing, that could scratch things, or to like get bent out of place. I really wanted something a little bit more low key. Obviously, this has a lot of diamonds, so it's not really low key in that aspect, but I wanted something very low profile that really couldn't catch on something, that could bump up against something on accident. And so I really wanted this low profile setting, which is exactly what Graff had. The low profile is also really helped again by the basket. So you can see that I believe this again, it's called the cathedral setting. So you can see how the band comes all the way up and touches the halo. A lot of other halo designs will not have a design feature like this. For example, like at Harry Winston, the band goes all the way and meets the diamond, or like kind of like the basket at the very bottom of the basket, and then the basket is separate from itself. But this provides a lot more security for the ring. So there's no chance that like the diamond could get knocked or loose or anything like that because of the security that the ring provides, how the band goes all the way up to touch the halo. And then again, I actually wasn't super sure if I liked the pave band because I thought that it was just like way too many diamonds. I was like, there's a center diamond, halo diamonds, pave diamonds everywhere. And so I originally actually asked if they had the icon with a non-pave band, but I actually think that would just generally look a little bit weird because the center is just so bling that I feel like the band should also kind of provide that same feeling. So I actually really love it. And again, I feel very lucky that my ring size is about a 4, because then I can get almost like that full pave band without having to pay like extra for the full pave band. Obviously, if you have a larger ring size than me, you're going to see a little bit more white gold, but this is just for resizing purposes and no one's really going to be able to see on the bottom of your hand. So I hope this video helped inform you a little bit if you are genuinely interested in getting an engagement ring from Graff. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. I know that little fiasco had happened, but they rightfully corrected it in an adequate amount of time, and so I really could not be happier with their service, the quality of items, and every other jewelry piece that Graff does sell is exquisite. I do want to say that for wedding bands, I am heavily considering Harry Winston because I really do like the ribbon band that is very, very classic from Harry Winston. I personally want a wedding band that does a little bit of a dip so that it doesn't really hit against my center diamond as much, and that there's also a little bit less of a gap between the wedding band and my engagement ring because my diamond is so low set. I'm a little bit hesitant because while I really love the design, the price, again, I think the Harry Winston is very overpriced for what it is. And secondly, I've gone to the SF boutique twice now. Just not great service all around. So when I went to Harry Winston yesterday, I did try on not only wedding bands, but I also even tried on the loop necklace, which I think retails a little bit over $17,000. So this is a very expensive diamond necklace. Beautiful, you have to be on a waiting list for it. But the essay was just very uninterested. Like if I'm willing to spend $17,000 on a diamond necklace, I would expect a little bit more engagement, a little bit more hospitality. Like I'm not really sure. Every person that I've experienced with Harry Winston, I would just say was a very mediocre experience, and that really heavily determines whether or not I do want to purchase from a brand. However, I will say that I did also go to Harry Winston in Tokyo, and those essays were lovely, the cutest ever. Like I want to go. If I do end up buying from Harry Winston, I think I just want to go back to Japan and buy from them because I do not want to buy anything from my SF boutique just because I haven't had a pleasant experience. But I will say that I did put my name down on the waiting list for the smaller version of the loop. So if it does come in, I'll look at it and I'll show you guys, but we'll just have to see how the vibes are that day. But that brings us to a wrap for today's video. If you have any questions at all about my ring or about my process in general, please just leave them down in the comments. I try to respond to everybody. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll definitely see you in the next one. Bye guys!